Hello, everybody. This is Gaia from guidingstar-astrology.com, and I'm the in-house Horary Astrologer, and I offer Horary question readings, and I generally have no wait list, and I'm pretty quick on my feet. So within 2-3 days, we can have our reading. And generally, I talk a lot about Horary astrology and how to work with Horary charts, but all the techniques that we use in Horary astrology are actually very important for natal chart interpretation, and they can be very well used to interpret natal charts. And today we're going to talk about uh, an important factor, which is very much used in Horary astrology, but it's very important also in natal chart interpretation. And this is the phenomenon of combustion and Kazimi. It's talked about a lot. And today I am going to offer you the medieval and Renaissance perspective on combustion and Kazimi. And so I'm going to mention some of the traditional authors and their interpretation. We are going to talk a little bit about the philosophy which is behind combustion, but hopefully I'll be able to give you something that you are able to use in your birth chart. So if you have a planet which is combust in your birth chart, well, I hope that today I'll be able to offer you some tips and clues on how to interpret that planet, how to work with it. Now, the first thing to do is give a definition of combustion. So combustion is a phenomenon that happens when a planet is within 8 degrees and 30 minutes of the sun. So the sun is combusting, and the planet, which is within 8 degrees and 30 minutes of the sun, is getting combust. So examples, of course, only conjunctions create combustion. And the example, so let's say we got Venus at 20 Capricorn and Sun at 14 Capricorn. Venus is combust. Let's say we've got Moon at 4 of Taurus and Sun at 11 of Taurus. Moon is combust. We've got Mercury at 27 Capricorn, Sun at 1 Aquarius. Mercury is combust. We've got Sun at 28 Leo and Mars at 4 Virgo. Mars is combust. So you can see that combustion works even when there is a sign boundary involved. So those out of sign conjunctions, combustion works as well because the planet is combust, because combustion is a visual phenomenon. Combustion is an astronomical phenomenon. Combustion happens when a planet is so close to the sun that you can't see the planet because they rise and set at the same time. They rise and set together. So it's an astronomical phenomenon whose symbolism is used in astrology. So why is it all based on the sun? Why is it the sun which is combusting and not Mars, let's say? Because combustion gives the idea of fire. So you may wonder, why is it that is the sun combusting? Why is it not Mars? Mars is a fire planet. Mars is a planet that is actually associated to burning. So why is it that the sun combusts and not Mars? Well, the sun combusts because the sun is the only planet which radiates its own light in the solar system. All the other planets do not have their own light. They reflect the light of the sun. And so the sun is the only source of light. The sun has its own light. The sun is a star. And even in traditional astrology, they assumed that the sun was at the center of the whole system. And the sun was the source of life, the source of light. And it gives the impulse for creation and creativity. So the sun is the heart of the chart. The sun is the heart in medical astrology, and the sun is the heart of the solar system, but it's also the heart of the planets. all the planets, they rotate around the sun. The sun is the king, and it's the heart, the core of the whole system. So that's the philosophy, a little bit of the philosophy behind combustion. So, well, we have said that the sun gives light and life and gives impulse to creation. So the sun is in general a benefic, right? Because it has these wonderful connotations. But when the sun is combusting a planet, it's said to be malefic, and we're gonna see why now. We're gonna see what happens when a planet is combust, because a planet which is combust faces a lot of challenges. And how do you interpret a planet which is combusting your birth chart? Two ways. First ways is the planet itself and the sun. So this is going to be something we will see in detail, because I will release a number of chats where I explain what it means to have the moon in conjunction to the sun, Mercury in conjunction to the sun, Venus in conjunction to the sun, and so on and so forth. The second way you can interpret combustion is actually the most personal way possible, is to use the houses that the sun rules and the houses that the combust planet rules. So let's say the sun rules your 5th house and the combust planet rules the 7th house. So because one of the interpretation of combustion is that the sun overrules and overwhelms the matters of the planet which is getting combust, this means that matters of the 5th house ruled by the sun, such as children, are taking control and priority over matters of the 7th house, which is to say relationships. So people who have the 7th ruler, the ruler of the 7th house, combust by the sun, and the sun rules the 5th, they will find and see that in their life, relationships need to succeed, to pave the way, to, actually get out of the way, because matters of the 5th house are prioritized. Again, it could be kids. Kids do not allow you to have a relationship. That's because the sun is overpowering the planet which rules the 7th house. And that's, we're going to look at what it means to have a planet combust now in details, but that's the interpretation that I will not go through in this series of chats about combustion, because there are so many possibilities. The possibilities are endless. So what you have to do is to draw your own birth chart, see if you have any planet conjunct the sun, see what house the sun rules, what houses the sun rules, see what houses the combust planet rules, and a matter of the combusted planet are overpowered, overwhelmed, controlled, suppressed, oppressed, repressed by matters that are ruled by the sun. Okay, so that's how you work with the rulership. Working with the house rulership makes everything more personal. And I'm not going to go through all of them in this series because it's endless. However, I'll go through planets with the sun, and I'll give you the more psychological interpretation, because it's the houses talk about the life areas, whereas the planets are the archetypes and the energies. The planets are the actors. So that's what I'll do, but I'll keep on giving some examples using rulership so that you learn how to do that, and you can do that for yourself. So as I said, what it means to have a planet combust, how does the combust planet feel? Well, not at its best, that is for sure. Well, first of all, the planet which is combust is hidden. As I said it before, the sun is hiding the planet. You can't see the planet in the sky. The planet is hidden. So matters of that planet are hidden, say you have the moon, which is combust, your emotions are hidden from others and even from yourself. So the planet is hidden. It could also indicate hidden potential, a potential that is with this planet and that you haven't discovered yet. So if the ruler of your fifth house is combust, your potential for creativity, your potential for having kids is hidden. You don't know about it. You don't see it, right? You need to discover that potential. You need to you need to discover it. You need to develop that potential. You need to develop that planet which is combust, because of the fact that you don't see it, that you don't connect with it easily, it is underdeveloped. So look at the planet which is combust. Look at the house it rules. Maybe it rules the third house. The combust planet is your ruler, the third house. Well, your communication needs to be developed. Or maybe the ruler of the first house, your ascendant ruler is combust. Then it means that you yourself are full of hidden talents that you have to discover and develop. You yourself, you don't know your personality that well. You need to get to know yourself. If the ruler of the first house is combust, let's say the ruler of the 10th house is combust, well, probably your career is not, your career at the moment is not as grandiose as it could be, because you don't know about it. You haven't dug deep enough. Yeah, because again, the planet is there, yes, but you have to do your work and discover it. But why is it not developed enough? Because the sun takes the spotlight. Because the sun and the matters ruled by the sun take the spotlight and take priority over the affairs of the combust planet. So let's say the 10th house ruler is combust and the 5th house ruler is the sun. So why is it that your career is not developed enough? Why is it that you don't feel that your job is fulfilling, or that you feel that you haven't gotten what you deserve from your career? Well, because your children, matters pertaining to kids, are taking the spotlight and taking priority over your job. Maybe you have decided to be a stay-at-home mom, or you had to stay at home, or you just have a part-time job because of course you need to go and pick up your kids at school and then help them doing their homework, right? So that's what it means to have this planet combust. That's one of the explanations, right? So the hidden potential and the planet which is combust isn't expressed or known by the person at its fullest because matters of the sun take priority. So just think about the houses and see the matters which are being sacrificed because of the sun. Something very interesting, because in traditional astrology, they didn't have Pluto. Pluto was discovered in the 20th century, in the 30s. So they didn't have Pluto, but they did have the concept of death and rebirth. And where did it come from? From combustion. Because a planet that goes through the process of combustion is going through the process of death and rebirth. Maybe you didn't know that, but it's like, what we usually associate to Pluto is was actually associated with the sun and the process of combustion. It's like this phoenix phase that the planet goes through, right? There is a transformation that occurs when we have a combustion, right? So if you have a combusted planet in your birth chart, what it rules and what it means and what it signifies in your life, it often goes through death and rebirth phases and transformations. Generally, it's not that stable. So if you have ruler of the 10th house combust, you may change jobs a lot. And you may feel that you have gone through so many phases of death and rebirth of your career. Your career has transformed so much. You're one of those people who in their 20s were working at a restaurant, in their 30s they were working in the investment section of a company, that in their 40s they opened a hotel, in their 50s they decided to, I don't know, do real estate. Uh, so many changes, many transformations, and there is no stability when it comes to the planet, which is combust. So you really have to be patient, to be open to change, and to embrace it, to understand that in that life area, which is ruled by the combust planet, well, you will experience so many changes, so many twists and turns, and you have to make peace with that. You have to realize, and especially if it is hard, if your chart is full of stability, you have to realize that these changes that you experience are not because you experience a lack of stability in your life, but because of the sun, because of the phenomenon of combustion, which indicates death and rebirth. And to have a death means that something has to end, and to have rebirth means that a new beginning has to start, of course, that something new has to be birthed, that something new has to come about. So a lot of endings, a lot of new beginnings in this area, a lot of transformation. And you just have to go with the flow, because that's how combustion works. That's one of the purposes of combustion. Combustion is here to move things along and to transform things, to bring in our life metamorphosis and changes, which will put us on our life path. Because what's the sun? At the end of the day, the sun is our soul, you know, the significator of our soul mission. And it's the heart of the birth chart, is why we are here, right? So another factor that happens with combustion, another keyword which is even more emphasized with Kazimi, and I'm going to talk about Kazimi a little bit later on, but Kazimi is when the planet is within 17 minutes of the sun. So let's say you've got the sun at 24 degrees, 10 minutes, and you've got moon at 24, 20 minutes. That moon is Kazimi. But in any case, for both Kazimi and combustion, another keyword is purification through fire, which is, you know, again, coming back to the concept of the phoenix. The phoenix, when she's about to die, she bursts up in flame and then she's rebirthed. So if you do rituals, you know that there are two ways to purify. One is water and the other is fire. So burning sage, for example, is one way to purify, right? So combustion indicates purification. So when it comes to the combust planet, if you want to do rituals to enhance that planet, whether it is that you want to enhance Mercury and therefore communication, whether it is that you want to enhance Venus and therefore relationships, whether it is that you want to enhance the ruler of the fifth house because maybe you want to have kids and you are doing a ritual, in that case, you have to use fire for that ritual because it is aligned with the meaning of combustion. But also in those life areas of the combust planet, you'll go through many purifications. And what does it mean to go through a purification? Well, it means that you're stripped down of all the dirt, of all the wastes, of all the garbage, of all the rubbish, till you're cleaned up and good as new, you know? So you will find again that in this area, you may lose a lot. You may have to detach and let go of many things, which don't serve you anymore, by the way. It's not a loss because of karma. It's a loss of things, it's letting go of things that do not serve you anymore. So important, it's not because the universe is out to get you, but it's because in this area, you need a lot of cleaning up, of detoxification or purification. Actually, purification is the right word because detox is more associated with water, whereas purification is more like fire. So in this area, you purify a lot. So you may have to do many spring cleanings in those matters. So relationship, let's say the ruler of your seventh house is combust. Oh my God, you have to do a lot of work to get rid of ex-partners, or not just romantic partners, but people who have been very important in your life, with whom you had important relationship, professional, personal, doesn't matter, but you have to do a lot of cleaning up, because those people, most of the time, they don't serve you in your future. So you have to do a lot of letting go of them, right? So that's what it means to go through a stage of purification through fire. So again, a combusted planet, when it goes through the death and rebirth phase and purification, so you go through death and rebirth, and while you are dying and and being reborn again, you are purified at the same time. And it's like being stripped of your clothes, and even your skin. It is painful. It's like the snake which is shedding its skin, right? But then a new skin, fresh and beautiful, appears. I don't know if you have ever done a peeling on your face. It's skin procedure basically, and it's not surgical, but it is a skin treatment. It's called peeling, and they basically use these chemicals to allow the superficial skin to shed, so that the skin below is regenerated, and also it gets the chance to come to the surface. So that's how the combust planet works. You have to get rid of all things that are superficial to allow what's deeper to come up to the surface. This planet goes through a lot of regeneration and renewal. So again, the lack of stability in the areas of the combust planet are not because, again, you don't have enough stability in your life, but it's because there is a need for continuous death, rebirth, transformation, and renewal and regeneration. And for renewal and regeneration to occur, again, you need to be stripped down of the old, and you need to be equipped with new tools, new assets, new clothes, new experiences. Also, in this, when it comes to the matters of this combust planet, oftentimes you need to inject yourself with new impulses, and you need a new impulse of vitality to reanimate the planet. So what does this mean is that oftentimes, let's use the 10th house ruler combust. So this means that you may find that in your career, things get boring for you pretty easily, and that you feel exhausted pretty easily. So you need to take time off to recharge. The time off corresponds to the death and purification, and then you start again, you start anew, and this corresponds to the rebirth and to the regeneration and renewal. So there are many cycles in this life area, and you will find that you need yourself to make the change, to bring up the change, to spruce things up because it gets boring easily, because it gets stuck easily. So you yourself need a lot of metamorphosis in this area. However, what does the sun do to the combust planet? Because as I said before, when I made my when I presented my first example, well, the sun is an active player, and most likely the sun is overwhelming, overruling, overpowering the combust planet. The affairs of the sun, let's say fifth house ruled by the sun, so children, are asking you to put in more time. So maybe your kids are very time demanding. They ask more time from you. Or let's say the 10th house ruler is the sun, and the 7th house ruler is combust. Career, your job is asking you more time, asking you for more time, for more commitment and dedication. You may have to sacrifice the affairs of the house ruled by the combust planet to satisfy the sun. So let's say the sun rules the 10th house and the combust planet rules the 7th. So job and career is so time consuming, so time demanding, requires a lot of commitment, priority, that you don't have time, energy, strength to pursue a relationship. The sun is the center of the solar system. The sun, wherever it is and whatever the sun rules, those areas always demand and require attention. The sun is the attention grabber. So you may have to dedicate so much, to put so much attention into your career that it is to the detriment of your relationships, according to our example. Because remember, a planet which is combust, it's said to be afflicted. The sun is considered to be an affliction. And it is an affliction because the sun is detrimental to the combust planet. And one of the ways that the sun is detrimental is that it demands attention. It takes the whole focus on itself, not leaving much space, time, and strength to pursue the matters ruled by the combust planet. The combust planet may feel as well a great sense of weakness and vulnerability, fragility. And you need and you should handle with care and caution this planet, because of the fact that this planet often goes through phases of death and rebirth. When you are a toddler, but also when you're at the end of your life, you're very fragile, you're very weak. In one case, because your strength is abandoning you. And in the other case, because you don't have any experience and your strength hasn't developed enough. So you also have to be very careful when you're dealing with a planet which is combusting your birth chart. So if the ruler of your 7th house is combust, for example, you have to be cautious in your relationships because you are extremely vulnerable in that area. Either because you're very tired and exhausted, and because you feel a lack of strength out of exhaustion, or because you don't have enough experience yet. So there is a lack of wisdom, there is an innocence and vulnerability that you see in kids where you trust easily and people take advantage of it. And we'll see how to spot the difference in the following videos because it depends on the planet. So this is something we'll discuss later on. But you just have to keep in mind this, that there is a sense of weakness, vulnerability, and fragility. And it is because either you have a lack of strength because you're exhausted, because you're very stressed, because you have nothing more to give, or because you are actually very innocent, very genuine. You trust easily, and you don't have the proper healthy self mechanisms built in to say no and defend yourself. So it could also indicate a problem when setting up proper boundaries and probably problems in saying no to something. As I said, the combust planet feels overpowered and overwhelmed by the sun, to the point, this is important, to the point that you may feel you can't exert any form of control over the affairs ruled by combust planet, and you surrender to the sun. It can feel like the planet is imprisoned, that it's ruled by more powerful people or more pressing issues and matters. And it can feel like the planet is restricted, that it has no strength of its own. It can be, as I said, a planet can be exhausted, and a sense of a sense of extreme exhaustion is permeating the affairs of the combust planet. It was eclipsed by the sun. So all this, what does it mean? Because I do have my notes here because this is a very detailed topic. So as I said before, the planet is hidden, so the sun may eclipse the matters of the combust planet. And there is a sense of exhaustion, as I said, lack of strength. But also something important is the sensation you may feel that you have no control over the matters of the combust planet. So if the ruler of your 10th house is combust, you may feel like you have no control over your career, that you can't exert any form of willpower when it comes to matters of career, matters of the 10th house, because something else, could be circumstances and events, or somebody else more powerful is exerting all the control. So there is a sense of powerlessness when it comes to the matter ruled by the combust planet. If it's the ruler of the 7th house, which is combust, you may feel like your partner is making all the decisions, that your partner has got all the control, and that you have no strength to fight back or to impose yourself or to pursue something of your own or to exert your free will in the your willpower, sorry, not the free will, but your willpower in the relationship. So it can feel very depleting, because at the end you have this lack of motivation. It's like, why should I even fight for it? Because I don't have any strength left. So you have to realize this, that you are surrendering your will power to somebody else or to something else, and you have to reclaim that willpower back. You may feel imprisoned and restricted. Why? Because matters of the sun are dictating the affairs of the combust planet. So let's say relationships, 7th house is combust. No, let's do the opposite. Let's say that the 10th house is combust by the sun, which rules the 7th house. So you may feel, when it comes to your career, which is the combust planet, you may feel like your relationship is dictating your career. Your relationship is dictating your job. So you feel restricted because of that. You feel like you're in a prison set by your partner, and this doesn't allow, set by your partner, yeah, set by the relationship itself even, and this doesn't allow you to exert your willpower on your career. So maybe your partner wants you to stay at home and keep the house cleaned up, or it wants you to stay at home because there are the kids to take care of. Or even on the opposite, maybe you want to stay at home and your partner wants you to go to work because of money. because there is money to make, there is the need to make money, right? So that's what happened. So you have to pay attention not to surrender to the matters of the sun, because it may be a surrender like physically, where you allow someone else to make the decision, where you allow events to run your life, or psychological, where you put all your emotional and mental energy into the issues of the sun. You focus so much on, let's say you focus so much on a relationship, even on a psychological and mental level, that you don't put enough energy into matters of job and career. So also there can be a form of psychological control or emotional control by the matters ruled by the sun over the matters of the combust planet. So a partner, let's again use the same example where the sun rules the seventh house and it's combusting. Let's say that it is combusting the ruler of your fifth house. So the partner is controlling you, even psychologically, not necessarily physically, materially, even psychologically or emotionally. When it comes to kids, maybe the partner wants kids, you don't want, but you surrender to their will. Or that's the opposite. You want kids, they don't, but you surrender to their will because you feel overpowered, you feel powerless, and you feel that you can't exert any form of control of your will. All right. So this is important because you have to reclaim your spot. Another important thing that happens with combustion is that because the planet is invisible or hidden, you are not in touch with that planet. Psychologically, emotionally, materially, you may disregard or just not even consider that planet. So let's say the moon is combust, you disregard or not consider or are not in touch at all with your emotions, especially if it's a new moon. If it is, let's say, ruler of the fifth house combust, well, that's probably indicating that with kids, you're not in touch with them. You are really, it's like you're in two different worlds, speaking two different languages. There is this sense of not being on the same wavelength. So pay attention to that. Take time to get to know this planet. Take time to get to know the matters that this planet rules. If it is the sixth house ruler, so if the sixth house ruler is combust, you probably do not pay attention to your health enough. And when there is a disease coming up, you may ignore it and just overlook it and just go past it and don't even acknowledge it. So be careful. Another theme that comes with combustion is grief. Grief, because why grief? It's again because of the death and rebirth. So when something dies, you grieve, you are in pain, you mourn, right? And I'm saying this because you have to give yourself time to grieve, to mourn, to process the loss. You process the loss, and then you incorporate new things. You bring in new people in your life. So after the death, the rebirth is not immediate. there is first a time of grief. And you have to keep this into consideration. So let's say the ruler of your seventh house is combust. When you finish a relationship, you need to give yourself time to process the loss before starting to date someone or starting just to get out and find someone. Before you do that, you have to allow yourself to grieve, to process the loss, to let things go properly, because that's how definitely birth works. There is the death, there is the processing of the loss, and then you can start the resurrection process where you like the phoenix are resurrected from the ashes. But again, you need to give yourself time to process it. Things. Another thing very interesting about combustion is that a planet which is combust often suffers from a lack of objectivity. Because the sun is the self, the sun is extremely subjective, the sun is the ego. And so a planet which is with the sun always lacks objectivity. Now, what does this mean is that you find it hard to remove yourself from the picture and analyze and look at things or act in a way that removes your subjectivity. And it is important in these matters to ask for feedbacks from other people, because you're not able to remove yourself from the picture. You're not able to be the spectator who's sitting among the audience and who's looking at himself performing on the stage. You are performing on the stage and you are on the stage performing. Some people are able to just sit down and look at themselves performing. When we have a combust planet, this does not happen. There is a lack of objectivity in the matters of the combust planet. Another thing that I want to mention is coming back to the death and rebirth concept. You find it hard to let go, and letting go, detaching yourself, leaving things behind is a life theme when it comes to the matters of the combust planet. And you face this challenge till you master the art, till you are able to let things go very serenely. And at that point, you have mastered one of your life lessons. So if the ruler of the fifth house is combust, you may find it very hard to let your kids go, to allow your kids to become independent, to be on their own. Or if it's Venus, you find it hard to let go of relationships. If it's the moon, it's hard for you to let emotions go. You allow emotions to marinate within you. Another thing that instead comes back to the lack of objectivity is the fact that we make many mistakes when it comes to the affairs of the combust planet. Because for this planet, it is hard to see things, as I said, from an outsider perspective, and it's hard to spot the mistakes. So you may find that the patterns repeat. And that is one of the reasons why they do repeat, is because it is hard to see where you went wrong. Again, that's why you need the feedback of somebody else. Let's see what I've forgotten to mention. Well, another thing that you should pay attention to is that in the matters of the combust planet, you may feel like you're just surviving, not living, sorry. Surviving, not living. That is, of course, because you don't feel like you have enough willpower to do something, and you just trudge along, you know? So you just do the bare minimum and that's it. So you may feel like this is just surviving, not living. So pay attention to this feeling, and if it happens, this means that you have to go back to the sun and see if you're allowing too much control to come from the sun and the houses it rules. Again, you may feel that you're like a puppet when it comes to the combust planet. So if it's the combust planet is ruler of the seventh house, you may feel like you barely survive in your relationship. You may feel like you're just a puppet. And again, what you have to do is to go back to the sun and see if you have proper boundaries in place when it comes to what the sun rules. Again, if problems come up when it comes to the combust planet, it is hard for you to see the problems and to deal with them properly because of the grief, because of the sense of loss, because of the sense of abandonment that you have to face. Something that is often not mentioned is that, again, the combusted planet cannot be seen, but you can't be seen either. So basically, the combusted planet is invisible, which means that you can't see that. So the planet can't see, and you cannot be seen. So the planet can't see and can't be seen, right? So this means that not only you feel like you are not acknowledged enough, that you are invisible, but actually other people don't see you. So you have to walk the extra mile to be visible, to enforce your will. It's also indicating that you don't know enough about this planet, about what it rules in the areas that it represents. If it's the first house ruler, you don't know enough about yourself. Not only people don't see you, they kind of skip over you and go to the next person on the line, and you're like, I'm there, I'm there, I'm there. But also you don't know about yourself because it's hard to get the chance to explore, to get to know yourself, because there's a lack of objectivity first, and because the planet is invisible. You rarely get the opportunity to see the mistakes. You rarely get the opportunity to see yourself through through a mirror, and you hardly get the opportunity to see and to acknowledge what you have learned. So again, that's why you need to ask somebody trusted to give you feedback on these matters. And I have a combust planet, by the way, in my chart, so I can speak from experience. It's very hard to listen to that feedback. So you ask someone for advice, they give you that, but it's actually very hard to listen to that. Often I find that I land a deaf ear to the advice that is given to me. It just goes, it enters from my left side and gets out from the right. So not only you have to ask for someone else's advice, but you have to remember to listen to that, because oftentimes with a combustion we don't listen to the advice because we are so overwhelmed by things. So another thing that happens with the combust planet is that there is a tendency to hide yourself, to go into hiding, to retreat within your shell. So let's say, well, if it's the first house ruler, which is combust, this actually makes you a very introverted person, a person who often retreats, a person who prefers to hide. Not because they have secrets, but because they are more comfortable not in the spotlight. because the sun itself is burning the planets, so it can feel uncomfortable. Remember, the feeling of oppression could be possible, and this may kind of force you into hiding, and you have to remember to work on overturning the matters of the sun, which are always taking up so much space. And yes, as I said, another caution is that it's hard to listen to receive and listen to answers and make good use of the advice and counsel you receive upon the affairs ruled by the combust planet. In fact, when I look at horary charts and I see that the person who's asking the question is combust, I immediately know that I have to be very careful, because this means that they will not listen to what I say to them. And also, it can also indicate that I most probably will say something that they don't want to hear. So that's always caution to exert. Other people actually don't really know the matters of the combust planet. So let's say your 10th house is combust. Actually, other people don't know anything about your career because it is hidden, because it's kind of secret. So because the combust planet is very private, it's very focused on inner work and self-reflection. This could indicate maturity and gaining of wisdom because of this, but it can also indicate that the other people don't get to see this side of you. So let's say Venus is combust. So you may do a lot of inner work when it comes to the way you relate to other people. You may do a lot of reflection on that, but actually other people don't see your relationship. They don't see your gestures, the gestures that you make to interact with people. If it's the moon combust, people don't see your emotions. You may spend a lot of time dwelling on them on your own, alone, but other people, they don't see your emotions. They aren't able to get in touch with your emotional side, to connect to you through the emotional side, because it is, again, it is invisible. All right, so I think I've mentioned, yeah, just the only thing that I want to mention before we wrap this up is the Kazimi, because Kazimi is, as I said before, when a planet is within 16 or 17 minutes of the sun. The Hellenistic tradition said the planet is Kazimi provided that it is on the same degree the sun is on. But the reason why I want to mention the Kazimi is because it's always assumed that it is a blessing. However, a planet which is Kazimi is still invisible. So the matters are still invisible. There is still the problem of invisibility. And Kazimi may indicate good opportunities coming up in the future, but Kazimi is, as Abu Mashar said, Kazimi is the true moment of purification. So there is pain as well here. It can be empowering and a source of fortitude, yes. But it is going through the stage of purification. So first of all, Kazimi is the culmination of the process of combustion, because combustion is a process. It starts when the planet enters the sunbeams, which is like 15 degrees before the sun, basically, 15 degrees before the sun. It enters the sunbeams. Then when it reaches 8 degrees and 30 minutes of the sun, combustion. When it's on the sun, exact Kazimi, and then it starts moving away. So combustion again, the phase of rebirth, the sunbeams again, and then it's out of it. So it's a process. So first of all, you can't cut it with a knife because it is a process. And second of all, Kazimi is the culmination of the process. It's where the action happens. So it can't be easy. It delivers promises of regeneration and germination of something new, but it ain't easy, not at all. Right? So that's something you have to remember when you see a planet which is Kazimi. Right? The planet has no strength in the purification. That's what Abu Mashar says. Sorry, they are cutting the grass outside. So you'll maybe hear something about that. So as I said, the planet regains its energy, its elf later on. And as Guido Bonatti said, again, another medieval and Renaissance author, the combust planet is a planet that has just regained a little bit of health after a sickness. So when a planet, Bonatti says that when the planet is exiting from combustion, the planet has just recovered from an illness. And we all know that when we have just recovered from the illness, we aren't at our best. We actually have to pay attention where we are going and to put on the scarf, to put on the jacket, because you don't want to get sick just after you have recovered because you aren't at full strength anyway. So that's how the planet is. So that's why I said before, you have to be cautious. You have to pay attention to what you do when it comes to the matters of the combust planet because you're more fragile. And you do not want to pile up the challenges in that area because you have already your hands full of it. So what the combustion teaches us is to become independent, to detach ourselves from something, from someone. It's a lot of transformation. It helps us learn to deal with the experience of loss and letting go of something. In this area, we'll experience in our life a lot of radical fundamental changes and transformations. And they're always difficult. It's never easy to deal with change, no matter how much mutable energy you have in your birth chart. So there is a sense of purging as well, because again, you are stripped down of everything that does not serve you right for your future. After the combustion, something good will develop in the future. That is for sure. So you, after the rebirth, you will build something good. You will build something that is aligned with your life purpose, with your life path, with your soul. But in the short term, both the Kazimi and the combustion are hard to deal with. And there can be painful moments because of the purging, to letting go of the past, and it asks you not to dwell on it anymore. And it's also hard to see the change. So one of the many reasons why there can be a lack of motivation, because you can't see the changes ahead and how it will affect you positively. And you may not see the opportunities, but you have to trust that the combustion is a realignment and the metamorphosis for your own good. Because combustion can be destructive, it can destroy because it's death. But combustion is a chemical change, chemical transformation where something is consumed, but it actually generates more energy. So this means that you are when you go through the rebirth phase, you are able to give more. You are improved. You have improved something. You have transmuted. You have eliminated something, but you have rebuilt something better because you're using the past experience to do better. Right? So I think that's pretty much everything here. Again, this is a complex process with many meanings. And a final note that I want to give here is that if you are quite advanced at astrology and you know essential dignities, you can see who's stronger, who is stronger. Is it the sun or is it the combust planet? So say you got Venus in Libra, combust, Sun in Libra. Well, Sun is in fall, Venus is in rulership, Venus is stronger. So it's easier for Venus to exert her willpower on the Sun, actually. Say Sun in Leo and Moon in Leo. Who's stronger? Sun in Leo, because it's in rulership. So in this case, Moon will succumb to the Sun. It will be much harder to exert Moon's will over the Sun because the Sun is much stronger here. All right, so after this long chat about combustion, I hope this was helpful, and I hope that it gave you a lot of tips on how to interpret the planet, which is combust. And again, you may focus on interpreting the houses that are ruled here, because in the next videos, I'll talk about what it means to have the moon combust, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. What about the outer planets? Are they combust? Well, the thing is that the outer planets aren't visible to start with, so their process is a little bit different. They are actually more likely to affect the sun rather than themselves being affected by it, even though each and every planet affects each other. So even at Sun, Venus, conjunction, combustion, even Venus may affect the sun. But with the outer planets, they really, really, really shape the sun in a very impactful way. But they themselves don't go through this hassle of the combustion, because again, they are invisible. So we can't say that they basically become invisible, because they aren't visible to start with, although they may go through a sense, they may experience a sense of regeneration. So if outer planet is combust, it may be experiencing a sense of death and rebirth, but it ain't that powerful. So I wouldn't pay attention to combustion of the outer planets with the same, putting the same emphasis. I'd use the 7 visible planets for the rulership interpretation. If you have Uranus combust, Pluto, or Neptune, those 3 are more likely to affect the sun, so they affect your life purpose and life mission, and I will talk about it. I will probably wrap it up with the outer planets. Okay, so this is all for me for now, and if you want to contact me, go on guidance.astrology.com on the astrologers page, and in the meantime, take care and see you soon with the moon conjunct the sun. So we'll look at the balsamic and the new moon. See you then. Bye.